Hey, Ma, is it alright if I drive your car for the internet?
Sure.
Thanks for the vote of confidence. Mama, who loaned me a Ford for a time. Are you sure I can review this? She said.
Of course. It's fine.
Alright, thanks. Love you.
Okay. Love you too.
So yeah, this is my mom's car. She basically traded in the old 2002 Chevy Malibu LS in favor of something she could load the grandkids and all of their grandkids' stuff into, now that she's enjoying the relative leisure of retirement after over 30 years in education. It took her a while to make a choice because she wanted something with a lot of cargo space, but also room for a lot of passengers because family road trips are still a thing. There are just more of us now. So after 2 months of searching and considering everything from a Subaru Ascent to a Toyota Highlander, it didn't really surprise me all that much when she ended up going with this. Because even while it's not an exciting car, there's an instant sense of familiarity to it. The Ford Explorer is artfully uncomplicated. It's every Ford you've ever driven, and many you probably haven't. You hardly even notice its size most of the time. It's not like it's got this crazy turning radius or impossible braking distance, even when it's packed full of stuff. For the most part, it's the crossover of crossovers. It's completely unremarkable in that way, and completely on brand with this era of sort of safe mid-size SUVs and crossovers. Now, this thing accommodates up to 7 grown-ass people. Not all that comfortably, mind you, but damn it, they'll fit. Now, where was this when I was going on dates in a Volvo 440 to see Attack of the Clones? There's nowhere near enough room to do anything freaky in those things, and it's bad enough we just got out of a movie featuring 2 leads with the on-screen chemistry of the Jersey Turnpike. And now it's 2019, and what's changed, really? Dating has become a network of interlocking hellscapes where compromise doesn't exist, so you go on Tinder because it's supposed to be an app for banging, but the only people on it now, are looking for husbands and Instagram followers and all of that crazy mess. Where are all the sex-positive singles out there just looking to enjoy a responsible night of sober debauchery? Ugh, Twitter's been pissing me off. Let me check my DMs. Oh, hey, what's this?
Hey, you can't complain about not getting a date when you never responded to any of my DMs.
What? No, I never checked my DMs.
I cared about you, Nick. But you know what?
What?
I'm done.
No.
This is ridiculous. Have fun with your imagination.
No! So here we have a 2016 Ford Explorer sporting the 3.5-liter Duratec TI VCT V6, and I'm not saying that again, making around 290 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and 255 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. And I'll just cut right to the chase and say it's not going to redefine what you expect from SUVs or crossovers, but, well, it's fine, I guess. It has solid handling for a car of its size, and it rides pretty smoothly and accelerates with a surprising amount of enthusiasm, even when you're not in sport mode. But it's also the type of car you almost forget you're driving as you're driving it. It's ambitiously run-of-the-mill, because that's what it's sort of meant to be. Ford isn't trying to convert non-believers with the Explorer. Like a fluffer on a porn set, it's here to perform a job without expectation of comment or recognition. You know, leave the actual performance to the pros. The transmission is a 6-speed automatic, but with a select shift option for varying road conditions. And though I meant to give the snow option a shot, we filmed on a particularly temperate day, so most of the snow had already melted. But from what I could tell, the difference is largely subtle. Even in sport mode, when you're trying to keep revs high, it hardly registers in your mind because the car is fairly quiet from the inside, and the sheer dimensions of the thing dampen the excitement you might feel if you were doing high revs in something less cumbersome. I mean, Ford says that select shift allows you to manually change gears even though you're driving an automatic, but clutchless shifting, well, you know, no clutch, not a manual, I'm sorry. Let's see, other features, well, it comes with auto headlamps and LED taillights, chrome exhaust tips, 50/50 third-row seating, Ford Sync for mobile devices, and all those bells and whistles that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things because it's my mom's car. Is it exciting? Not particularly, but again, is this a car that is meant to be exciting? Probably not. In a way, you have to meet the Ford Explorer on its own terms, understanding that it's not here to be a car show favorite. It just does what it was meant to do and does it well. Intellectually, you know it's not the case, but in a vacuum, it feels powerful. It feels imposing, even while you know that if you're on the outside looking in, it's none of those things. It's just another hulking piece of Americana that doesn't really inspire greater enthusiasm than the reaction that, well, it's fine. It can play the notes, but it's not out here making music. Now, the manual lists the fuel economy as 16 city, 23 highway, 19 combined, averaging 5.3 gallons per 100 miles. But the manual also explains that because of your purchase, you'll be spending $2,750 more in fuel over 5 years compared to the average new vehicle. So it looks like you'll be canceling Hulu and getting haircuts from Aunt Linda again. I'm not entirely sure this car has reached beyond the family-oriented consumer, considering how Ford has essentially cut their entire fleet to the bone. But even before Smallmageddon, I'm talking 29 years ago, Ford was aiming to fill the mid-size SUV segment with their own offering that could stand against the Blazers and the Cherokees of the time. If a Mustang is a man who's one bad habit away from ruining his credit score, a Ford Explorer is a person who's one purchase away from filling their punch card at Cafe Le Sure, the coffee tastes like a mug of warm hooker spit, but you have a 12-hour day ahead and caffeine is caffeine. The Ford Explorer was introduced in 1990 for the 1991 model year, marking Ford's first foray into four-door SUVs, in an attempt to reach out to families more than the Bronco 2 did. Although the first generation did feature a two-door option, this was still geared more towards people who've successfully performed reproduction, what with its larger dimensions and an appearance that screams market research gone wild. The first generation was basically a restyled Ford Ranger with the same Ford Cologne V6 engine used in the Aerostar and the Ranger. And it would go through countless restylings and upgrades before getting to this point, manufactured alongside the now late and, depending on your opinion, dearly departed Taurus. On the subject of the Taurus, the 5th Gen Explorer utilizes a modified version of its unibody chassis and transverse engine layout. It's essentially a revised D3 platform called, surprise surprise, the D4 platform. It also resembles the 6th Gen Taurus in its 3-bar design with perforated mesh styling, because this is what the cops drive now, so I guess if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound in the aesthetics department. But even while this looks like what cops tend to drive, I don't really view it as a signifier of authority. The 2016 Ford Explorer is a vehicle of several identities. You see, when Ford set to work building this thing, they had families in mind. You get 3 rows because family. You get size because mom's here and we're running late. You get adjustable drive settings because you live in the Wyomissing school district and they never cancel school. So get in the car, kids. I guess we're doing this. Ford Explorer, sponsored by people who use the term fur babies. If a Taurus is the official car of a guy shaving in traffic with an electric razor, a Ford Explorer is the official car of a parent-teacher conference where both parents actually show up. The Ford Explorer suggests a more adult persona than some of the other cars in Ford's lineup, like my car, for instance. But unlike my Mustang, the Explorer is also the kind of car that suggests a far longer history than it actually has. Because when you get older, you find yourself using phrases like, "in my day," without any sense of irony whatsoever. When, in reality, in my day wasn't that long ago. I mean, in my day, being sent to your room was a punishment. Now it seems like kids have to be dragged outside kicking and screaming. It used to be that your mother didn't want to see or hear a word from you before dinner because she's watching her stories. In my day, $15 allowance covered a movie, popcorn, and a soda, all on a Saturday afternoon when you should be at the library writing your term paper, because there's no internet and your Encarta disc is scratched, so you need to look up mitochondrial DNA in the World Book Encyclopedia. In my day, if you needed to get picked up after rehearsal, you called your mom collect and gave your name as "I'm ready, come get me." Or maybe you just say screw it and walk home, because in my mind, it was longer ago than it was. In my day was centuries ago, and within those centuries, multitudinous instances of youthful absurdity. And I know, you're wondering what the point is. Here's my point. That's all nostalgia. And yet, an Explorer both embraces and refutes nostalgia, because we live in a Xerox era where everything is derivative of something else. We want to be reminded of experiences we can't recapture, of childhood, of cheap gas, cheaper movies, and happier people. But the past is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid confronting the present, because how good was the past in the grand scheme of things? If you were there now, it would be a different experience altogether because you're not the same person you were then. So even if we could take vacations to the 90s, I mean, well, hell, I'd go, but I wouldn't pretend like it was a more innocent world, because it wasn't. The only thing innocent about that world was my view of it, because I didn't know any better. But as you accumulate life experiences, you begin to see nostalgia for what it is. The idea that there was once a time where you were 100% untethered by anxiety, or relationship concerns, or the thrashing maw of taxes and medical bills, of a time where you lost friends, but only because they moved away. Then you step into an Explorer and you're reminded that that was then. This is now. This is very much now. And suddenly you feel like an adult. Not some kid wistfully hoping for a return to a simpler time, but an adult who has errands to run, an adult who's still making it up as he goes along, because in some ways, that's what adulthood is. Yet in other ways, it's about focusing on things beyond yourself and that bubble of instant gratification. So yeah, this was a pretty long walk to a very short thesis, but it's all in service of explaining just why I feel such a sense of cognitive dissonance when I step inside an Explorer. Because I know, intellectually, that I'm an adult. And when I'm in a Ford Explorer, I almost feel like I could pass for one. I mean, I'm not entirely sure my brain ever adjusted to the reality of my adulthood. But then, a Ford Explorer is like a reminder that, well, I'm responsible now. And I have to be responsible now. Because adulthood is responsibility. I'm driving something with a 5,000-pound curb weight. There are kids in the back seat, my mom in the passenger seat, and a coffee in the cup holder. The Explorer doesn't bother playing on nostalgia to rope people in. It just exists in its own time, in its own way. It's here to help you do adult stuff. And in a grander sense, it feels like the kind of car you get when you're at a point in your life where you're not really thinking about personal enjoyment. You're thinking about other people. Not what they'll think, not what they'll say, but instead what you can provide for the people you actually care about. Because nobody who gets a Ford Explorer considers whether or not they're going to enjoy driving it. Nobody gives half a moment's consideration to wondering if anybody will think it's cool. Hell, my mom didn't take any of that into consideration when buying this. She had purely utilitarian concerns. It was all about storage, all about seating capacity, because she makes a lot of trips to visit the grandkids, and she comes bearing gifts and essentials because she doesn't send care packages, she is the care package. But in being the care package, she's also precious cargo. Because, well, she's precious to me. She's precious to all of us in my family. My mom has really enjoyed this car for the 6 months or so that she's had it. And if I'm honest, it's not a bad vehicle by my own standards, which are admittedly different from Brian's in some respects. At the end of the day, I'm just happy if the car does what it was meant to do with minimal fuss. Because while I absolutely love driving and adore the experience of loving a car and pouring little bits of your identity into it like horcruxes that'll keep you tethered to this mortal coil, I don't care as much about going fast or taking sharp corners. Maybe I should. I don't know. I just struggle to find significant issue with what's here with this car, even as I simultaneously struggle to find anything worth getting excited over. It's good in the way you need it to be, when you need it to be. And outside of those moments, you don't think about it much. It's a transactional relationship, like the one between a barista and a favorite customer. But then, that doesn't mean it can't also be something more. So I reviewed my mom's Explorer. It went a little long. Now to top the whole thing off, I'm gonna sing myself a song, singing it's all right now. No need to sing the blues. You can't win them all, so just keep on making your reviews.